let's turn in our Bibles to Luke chapter 12. Immediately following my message, Ray is going to do a bunch of songs off his new Christmas project as well, and it's just great to hear all these songs. It's fun when you hear them when you haven't heard them for a while, isn't it? They're all fresh and new, and then about December 24th, it's like, no more. I mean, we still like the ones with Christian lyrics, but some of those others, it's like, please, no more Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you know. But there's no doubt that Christmas is coming. I mean, you would be hard-pressed to not notice there are signs, if you will, all around reminding us that it is here. And when did we start seeing the advertisements? Was it August this year? I'm not sure. But they're the telltale signs. You know, the lights are going up on houses. And now they have these new LED lights. Have you seen those? They're just a little more intense. And people put up these giant, inflatable Frosty the Snowmans and Rudolphs. You rarely see a manger scene anymore on anybody's front lawn, but there are the Christmas trees and the tops of cars. You don't even want to go near them all. Traffic is backed up. And our newspaper that, comes to our house weighs about 20 pounds per unit now because it's stuffed full of advertisements. As you watch television, there's just constant commercials. I was watching a cartoon with my granddaughter, Stella, the other day. I think it was Dora the Explorer. She really likes Dora. And so we're watching, and in between are countless commercials. And after every commercial, she said, Papa, can you get that for me? Papa, will you get that for me? Papa, will you get that for me? I said, Stella, I don't know. I didn't like that last toy. I said, let me find one that's cool. If I see a cool toy, maybe I'll get it. And the next ad came on. She said, Papa, was that cool enough? But the pressure's on. The pressure's on to get out there and spend your money and to celebrate this season. I don't think it's possible you could miss the fact that Christmas was here. Well, the reason I bring this up is on the first Christmas, the night that Jesus Christ was born in that manger in Bethlehem, it was largely missed. Of course, there weren't the telltale signs we would have today. There were no reindeer on anyone's front lawn back then. No Christmas carols to hear quite yet. No brightly colored lights hanging from the little huts that people would be living in. No sales at the downtown market. No brightly wrapped presents and so forth. Children did not find it hard to sleep that night because it was a night like any other. But yet that first Christmas had its own signs and signals that were being fulfilled before the eyes of the people, because the Hebrew prophets had foretold the fact that a Savior was coming. A Messiah was arriving. He would be born of a virgin. He would be born in the tiny little town of Bethlehem. He would come as the root and the offspring of David. But for the most part, people missed it. Why? Because they were not paying attention. And as we look at our culture today, there's similarities. We celebrate Christmas, but it's so easy to forget about Christ. You have to understand what the climate was like at this time politically. Rome was in power. They had established what they called Pax Romana, which was the forced peace upon the people. And Rome had installed a puppet governor there in Jerusalem known as King Herod. Ironically, Caesar had given to King Herod the title, the King of the Jews. So Herod was trying to cover all the bases. On one hand, he was building pagan temples for the worship of false gods right at the epicenter of where God's people lived. Plus, at the same time, he was beautifying and rebuilding the Jewish temple. So, he was doing a little of everything. Sort of reminds me of a story I heard of Elvis Presley from years ago. You remember Elvis Presley? And he was an actual person, by the way. I think we have a caricature of him, but he was a guy who was into spiritual things, and Elvis was raised as a Christian, but he got into other religious ideas and ideologies and so forth. And one day, one of his buddies noticed that he had all these things hanging around his neck, a cross, a Star of David, other religious symbols. And his friend said, so Elvis, you have all of these religious icons hanging around your neck. what is that all about? And Elvis said, well, I don't want to miss getting into heaven on a technicality. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was an Elvis leg right there. Thank you. If you didn't understand what I just said, Elvis said, I don't want to miss getting into heaven on a technicality, you see. So he bought into everything a little bit, and that's sort of what Herod was doing. All these religious ideas swirling about. Things were very dark spiritually. And then add to this the fact that Israel had not heard from God for 400 years. Not a single prophet had spoken. Not one angelic appearance, not one miracle had been performed, but things were ripe for the arrival of the Messiah. And the silence was broken when God dispatched the mighty Gabriel from heaven to a priest named Zacharias. Zacharias was an aged man, and he was told by God through Gabriel that he was going to be the father of the forerunner of the Messiah. He, along with his wife Elizabeth, were going to have the privilege of having that boy that would tell people that Jesus is coming. And the very fact that Gabriel was dispatched showed that God meant business, because Gabriel is a high-ranking angel, you know, the head honcho, if you will. The only one that would perhaps outrank Gabriel would be Michael, the archangel. So God is sending a heavyweight angel to announce this news to this priest that you're going to have a son. And then Gabriel goes to Mary, just a teenage girl living in Nazareth. And he tells her that she is going to be the mother of the Messiah. Then Gabriel goes to Joseph and reveals to him the same thing. So now the Holy Spirit has come upon Mary. Jesus Christ has been conceived supernaturally in her womb. And she's waiting for his birth. And then suddenly Caesar Augustus gives a decree that everybody has to go back to their hometown to be taxed. Well, Mary and Joseph, being of the root and offspring of David in fulfillment of Scripture, made the difficult journey to Bethlehem. And it was there in fulfillment of Scripture, because there was no room in the inn, that the Son of God entered our world. The news was announced first to shepherds keeping watch over their flocks by night, that one had come, the Savior had arrived. Now, sometime after this, wise men came from the east. Now, I hate to mess your nativity setup, but I got to tell you, the wise men did not come see the child or the baby in Bethlehem. When we read the story of the wise men, we read they did not come to a baby, but to a child. He was not in a manger, but in a house. It was sometime later. So if you have a nativity set up and you've got the baby Jesus and Mary and Joseph, a few animals, and then the shepherds, and then the wise men, 3 wise men, of course, I have to tell you a couple things. Number one, the Bible never says there were 3. Maybe there were 12. You know how expensive it would be to buy more wise men? We don't know how many there were. There were 3 gifts, but the Bible doesn't say how many wise men there were. Secondly, we don't know exactly when they came, but it was sometime later. So if you want to be really accurate, you can set your nativity set up, and maybe a week after Christmas, bring the wise men along, you know. It's all good. It doesn't matter really. I mean, you get the idea. But the wise men came because a star appeared in the sky. And these guys were both astrologers and astronomers, and they looked to the stars for direction. God reached out to these pagan men in their culture and used a star to bring them to the Lord. When they came into town and told Herod that they were looking for the king of the Jews, there wasn't a worse thing they could have said, because Herod was a paranoid tyrant. And Herod was a man who was bent on the destruction of anyone who would get in his way. And hearing that there was a threat to his kingdom, he gave the decree that all the little baby boys in Bethlehem should be slaughtered. But of course, the Lord was born, and this is what we celebrate this time of the year. There were a lot of people that missed the first Christmas, but you would be hard-pressed to miss the ones that follow. I mean, as I said earlier, you could not miss the fact that Christmas is upon us. I read recently that Americans spend about $2.16 billion every year on Christmas gifts. And you know, what's interesting is how certain things are popular as the years go by. For instance, do you know what the most popular gift was in 1975? A lot of you weren't even born then. The most popular gift in 1975 was the Sony Betamax player. That was the first VCR, basically. And it sold for $2,300. Can you believe that? They got more affordable later. Though I never did figure out how to stop it from blinking 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Then along came a few years later something called the mood ring. 20 million of them were sold. A mood ring. Apparently, depending on what mood you're in, it would change colors. How many of you had a mood ring? Raise your, oh, wow. How many of you are wearing a mood ring right now? And what mood are you in? You're happy? Is a happy mood? Good. And then it gets more ridiculous. The most popular gift in 1975 was the pet rock. What was the pet rock, you ask? It was a rock. And a guy glued on little eyes on it and put it in a little box. There was a training manual, a pet carrier, and they sold 1.3 million of them. 1981, the most popular gift was the Rubik's Cube. And they were very popular. In fact, I read a story of a husband sued his wife for divorce, and one of the reasons he cited was the Rubik's Cube. I guess she gave him one, and it drove him crazy. But that's true. 1983, the most popular gift, guess what it was? Cabbage Patch doll. How many of you got a Cabbage Patch doll? How many of you brought it with you to church tonight? Please, okay. Well, you just had to have a Cabbage Patch doll. There were people standing in lines, paying hundreds of dollars to get the doll with adoption papers. And what was it last year? Like Tickle Me Elmo, or it's always something that people get all excited about it. And that's just the way that it goes. I mean, where did this all come from, this idea of gift giving? I guess it goes back to the shepherds who brought their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. I guess if we were to update it today, we would bring Apple iPods, DVD sets, digital cameras, and Nintendo Wiis, because those are the most popular gifts this particular season. But my point in bringing this all up is a lot of people miss the first Christmas or the first coming of Jesus when he arrived on this planet. But here's something to consider, and Travis touched on this a moment ago. Jesus Christ, born in the manger in Bethlehem, crucified on the cross of Calvary, risen again from the dead, is coming back again. And we don't want to miss that. He came right on schedule the first time, and he'll come right on schedule the second time. We're told over in Galatians, when the time was just right, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, made under the law, to redeem those that are under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. When the time was just right, Jesus was not early, nor was he late. And listen to this. When the time is just right, Jesus Christ will come again. The Bible is very clear in pointing out that Christ is returning. There are 260 chapters in the New Testament, and Christ's return is mentioned no less than 318 times in these chapters. It's a reoccurring theme in the Bible. Jesus himself said in John 14, I will come again and receive you unto myself. In Mark 8:38, Jesus said, when I return in the glory of my Father with the holy angels, he will come when the time is right. Now, sometimes we may wonder, Lord, are you paying attention to planet Earth? Do you realize how bad it has gotten? The answer is he's fully aware of everything that's happening. And Jesus said, when he comes, he said, of that day and hour knows no man. And if you were to translate that from the original language, it would translate out to say, of that day and hour, no man knows. And if we were to explain what it meant, it would be, of that day and hour, no one knows. So when someone sets a date, don't believe it. We don't know the date, but we can know the times and the seasons. Jesus said in Matthew 16, you know the saying, red sky at night means fair weather tomorrow. Red sky in the morning means foul weather all day. You're good at reading the weather signs in the sky, but you can't read the obvious signs of the times. I know it's raining outside right now. You know how I know? I walked outside and it rained on me. And by the way, bald men always know when it's raining first. I've told you this before. I'll be walking down the street with my wife and I'll say, it's raining. She'll say, it is not. She has so much hair, she wouldn't know if it was a hurricane. I said, no, I felt the drops, because you feel these things, And I don't know if I even trust weathermen anyway. I think that my guess is as good as theirs. Just look out the window. Oh, look, it's kind of stormy. I think it's going to rain. Better take an umbrella. Oh, look, it's clear and sunny. Maybe I won't wear a jacket today. You look at things and you can make decisions. Well, we don't know the day and the hour, but Jesus says, know the signs of the times. And all around us, there are signs saying to us, Jesus Christ is coming back again. You might ask, well, what are those signs? Well, I could go on all night about that. Number one, how about the regathering of the nation Israel into their homeland? That's a super sign. God predicted that the nation Israel would be dispersed to the four corners of the earth, and they would regather and become a nation again, and that they would be surrounded by hostile enemies. And that is exactly what has happened with Israel today. There is no historical precedent for such a thing happening with any other nation in the world. But against all odds, Israel reformed as a nation on May 14th, 1948. They reestablished themselves in their homeland, and they're surrounded by dangerous enemies. The Bible tells us that not only would she have her enemies, but there would be weapons that had the capacity to destroy our planet. You look at these vivid descriptions in the book of Revelation, among other places, and catastrophic devastation. And we realize that we have the technology at our fingertips today to fulfill Bible prophecy. I read just in the paper today in the LA Times that Iran now claims they can produce yellow cake uranium, which means that they're a step closer to producing their own nuclear weapons. And to the point, Iran has threatened to use these nuclear weapons against what they call the little Satan, that's Israel, as well as the great Satan, that's the United States of America. Yeah, signs of the times, and yet many will look on these with complete indifference. But listen, the stakes are high. There's people today that have a better idea how to prepare for a Christmas celebration than how to prepare for the return of Jesus Christ. We know how to get ready for Christmas, put the lights up in the house, buy the Christmas presents, give the Christmas presents, go into bankruptcy after giving the Christmas presents. Well, what are we to do in light of the fact that Christ is coming again? Well, let's read about that now. Luke chapter 12. And we're going to start in verse 35. Here are the words of Jesus that tell us how we are to prepare for his return. Let your waist be girded and your lamps burning. And you yourselves be like men who wait for their master when he will return from the wedding, that when he comes and knocks, they will open to him immediately. Blessed are those servants whom the master, when he comes, will find watching. Assuredly, I say to you, he will gird himself and have them sit down to eat, and he will come and serve them. And if he should come in the second watch or in the third watch and find them so, blessed are those servants. But know this, that if the master had known what hour his house would have been broken into, he would have watched and not allowed this. Therefore, be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour that you do not expect. Let's pray for a moment. Lord, as we open your word now, as we hear your words to us, help us to be ready. Help every person hearing this message to be prepared for your return. For we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, when we read a story like this, it might be hard for us to grasp in some ways because it's a different culture back in biblical times than we have today. Jesus is describing a classic first century Jewish wedding. Unlike our weddings today, a first century Hebrew wedding would last days, not hours. It was an extended time of celebration and fun. One of the fun elements was you didn't know when the groom was coming. So the bridal party would be assembled, the groomsmen would be ready, the bridesmaids would be prepared. But where was the groom? And an announcement would be given, the groom is coming. And if you were asleep, you'd miss the ceremony. It might come in the middle of the night. It might come early in the morning. The bridegroom is coming, and he would arrive, and the ceremony would take place. So with this idea in mind that was understood by the people, Jesus is using this as a picture of how it will be when he comes back again. So he says, so be ready. Verse 35, let your waist be girded and your lamps burning. Another translation says, be dressed for service and be well prepared. What does this mean? To have your waist girded. Okay. Back in those days, they wore long flowing robes, right? Well, they would wear a belt. And they would have a belt that they would use to cinch up their robe. And on this belt, they would also have objects attached. For instance, they would carry an extra flask of oil for their lamp. And their lamp was basically saucer-like. They would pour oil in it. There would be a floating wick. And when your lamp got low of oil, you pull out your little flask and pour it in. So it was sort of like a utility belt, kind of like what Batman would wear or what a police officer would wear. You know, the officer will have the belt that holds up their pants, but then they'll have what they call the Sam Browne. And the Sam Browne is that heavy-duty utility belt with all that stuff hanging off of it. A holster for their gun, maybe a place for their baton, a place for their handcuffs, maybe some mace spray, a little holder for a donut. No, they don't have that, but so the idea was they would have these belts and they would cinch them in, tighten them to give freedom of movement. So the idea that Jesus is communicating is be alert, be prepared, and be mobile. If we were to update this today, it would be like saying, you know what? Have fresh batteries in your flashlight, or have your cell phone charged, or have your car gassed up. You know, be ready for the journey. And that's how we are to be in anticipation of the Lord's return, ready to go in a moment's notice. Listen, when Christ comes, you don't have time to change anything. And well, let me go do this first. And no, there's no time. It's going to happen in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. You cannot even measure that. So you just need to be ready, because we could be standing here having this conversation and blink our eye and be in heaven. That's how fast the rapture will happen. And that could come at any moment. But now Jesus makes an interesting statement in verse 38. And if he should come in the second watch or in the third watch and find them so, blessed are those servants. What does that mean? Well, back in these days, they divided the night into 4 watches or shifts. The first watch was, from 6 to 9. The second from 9 to 12. The third from 12 to 3. And the fourth watch of the night included the time just before dawn. So effectively, Jesus is saying, if I come later than you originally expected, be ready. Listen, as I said earlier, God is not late. The Bible says God is not late, as some men count lateness, but he is long-suffering toward us, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. I believe that Jesus Christ is waiting for that last person to believe so we can all go to heaven. Can you imagine if we knew tonight who that last person was? Do you think we'd be tempted to pressure them a little bit? Are you going to get saved or what? You know? The Lord knows. And just imagine that person says yes to Jesus, and then we're in God's presence. Yes, the Lord is coming back. So what are we supposed to be doing? A few things. And if you're taking notes, you might write them down. And I think we have them on the screen here as well. Number 1, we are to be watching for him. We are to be watching for him. Verse 37, blessed are those servants whom the master, when he comes, will find watching. Now that doesn't mean that we're like idiots standing around staring at the sun. To watch means to just be alert and aware. For instance, when I read the newspaper or go to a news website, I'm always aware of what's happening. And I'm wondering, wow, are these signs of the times? This conflict over here in the Middle East, or this threat of North Korea to use nuclear weapons against South Korea or others, this economic meltdown? Yeah, I'm looking for signs of the times. I'm to be watching. Jesus says, when you see these things begin to happen, look up, for your redemption is drawing near. The Bible says he will appear a second time for those who are looking for him. So be watching. Number 2, be ready to go. Coming back to the Christmas analogy, get your Christmas shopping done, okay? Guys, that means before December 24th. Don't let it come as a revelation, especially when it concerns your wife or maybe your girlfriend if you're not married yet. But here's the thing. Then there are those people that will throw us a curve, people we didn't get a gift for, and they'll come up and give us a very nice gift. Merry Christmas. Oh, wow. Open it now. Okay. And you open it, it's like, whoa, this is kind of nice. Yeah. All right. Did you get something for me? Yes, I did. Can you just stand right there? I'll be right back. And you get in your car and you're driving down to the mall. You didn't get anything for them. It's sort of like a form of blackmail, isn't it? Be ready to go. Have your bags packed. That's the idea of being communicated. Have your work clothes on. Have your shirt sleeves rolled up. Have your comfortable shoes on. Now, this is not a problem for guys. Guys buy shoes for comfort generally. Girls, no. It's all about the outfit. And you know what I've discovered? It's built in. It's pre-programmed. I give up because I'm in a house surrounded by girls right now because I have my wife and we have our granddaughters living nearby. And so getting even little girls ready is a production. Like my granddaughter Stella, she's 4. I took her to her room the other day. Okay, let's get ready. And I picked out shoes. I don't want those shoes, Papa. Those are the wrong shoes. Okay, so we find the right shoes. Now let's try dress options. No, none of these are right. So we go through all these dress options. Now we're on the top. Now we're at the headband and the ribbon. And then Lucy, who's only 2, is starting to do it now too, and she can't even talk yet. So the idea here is to have practical shoes, not high heels. Those are the most impractical shoes ever made. Vince knows about these because he wears, no, he does, no, they're crazy. That's not a practical shoe. You have to have a shoe that you can move quickly on. That's the idea being conveyed by Jesus. Be ready to go at a moment's notice. Have your bags packed because it can happen at any moment. And this is the thing we need to ask ourselves. Am I ready? To be ready for his return is to be engaged in activities you would not be ashamed to be doing if Jesus were to come. Let me ask you a question. If Christ were to come tonight, would you be ashamed of the fact that you're at church? No. You'd say, well, this is the perfect place to be, isn't it? I'm here with God's people, and we're worshiping the Lord. This is a great thing to be doing as we await the Lord's return. But have we ever been in places that we'd be embarrassed to be in if the Lord were to come? An interesting question to ask yourself periodically is, this place that I'm about to go, this thing that I'm ready to do, would I be ashamed or embarrassed to be doing such a thing if Jesus were to come back? If the answer to that question is yes, I suggest to you, you do not do it. If you really believe that Christ is returning, it should have a practical impact on the way that you live, morally and spiritually. 1 John says, beloved, we are the children of God. It's not yet been revealed what we will be, but when he's revealed, we'll be like him. He that has this hope, the hope of the Lord's return, purifies himself even as he is pure. In other words, when I really believe that Jesus is coming back, it impacts me in the way that I live. Illustration. Have you ever noticed how people behave differently when a uniformed police officer enters the space? I have a few friends that are cops, and I was meeting one for coffee the other day, and so we walked into the little coffee place. The whole energy of the room changed. He walks in and was like, oh, just looking around. Hello, officer, how are you? I really wasn't speeding on the way over here. Like, people are like giving confessions to him. He's just laughing. I said, have you noticed the way people react when you're wearing your uniform? He says, yes, that's just the way it is. How about this? When you're driving down the freeway, if there's a CHP, have you noticed that no one ever wants to pass them? Even if they're going under the speed limit, we all just slow down. I'm not passing them. You go ahead. I think cops just do this to mess with us too. Let's see how stupid these people are. I'm going 20 miles per hour on the freeway. And I'm going to ticket them for going too slow. Because that's breaking the law too. No, we alter our activity because we're aware of the presence of an authority figure. In the same way, if we really believe Jesus is coming back again, it should affect you in the way that you live. It should affect you in relationships you have. It should affect you in decisions you make. It should affect you in what you say yes to and what you say no to. Number 3, we're not only to be ready, but we should anxiously await his return. Look at verse 36. Be like men who wait for their master when he returns. They will open to him immediately. Have you ever dreaded the arrival of someone at your house? You didn't want to answer the door. Then again, have you ever looked forward to someone's arrival? And before they could even knock, they come in, you open the door. They're like, come on in, man. That's how we should be when we think of the return of Jesus. Looking forward to it, anticipating it, not dreading it, but excited about it. Jesus says, behold, I come quickly. And the answer of the true Christian will always be, along with the Apostle John, even so, come quickly, Lord Jesus. And anything that would prevent that answer is out of place in our lives. Anything that would make it difficult for us to say, come quickly, Lord Jesus, is really spiritual weakness. Number 4, we are not only to be waiting, we are also to be working. We are not only to be waiting, we are also to be working. Verse 43, blessed is that servant whom the master will find so doing when he comes. Listen, if watching is the evidence of faith, working is the evidence of faith in action. Watching for the Lord's return will help us prepare our own lives, but working will assure we bring others with us. We should be serving the Lord. It's not like, oh, Jesus is coming. I'm going to quit my job and just sit around on my rooftop. No. Get to work. And more importantly, look for opportunities to share the gospel, to engage people, to tell them about Jesus. And you know what? This is a happy way to live. Listen to verse 37. Blessed are those servants whom the master, when he comes, will find watching. The word blessed could be translated, oh, how happy are those servants. It's not a miserable, repressive, confining way to live, looking for the return of Christ. It's a happy, joyful, purposeful way to live. That's what we are to be doing. Watching for him, ready to go, anxiously awaiting his return, and working. Yes, Christmas is coming. The signs are all around us. Most of us are ready, but it's just a holiday. And we'll forget those gifts that we received. I bet you can't even remember most of the gifts you received last year. Maybe you received some of the ones you gave because you're still paying for them. But know this, Christmas will come and Christmas will go, but Jesus Christ is coming. People miss the first Christmas. Don't miss it when Jesus Christ comes back again. He is coming for those who are watching and waiting. So don't just be ready for Christmas, be ready for Christ himself. Not Christmas presents, but his holy presence in your life. So let me ask you this in closing. If Jesus were to come back tonight, and he could, would you be ready? See, understand, when the Bible talks about the return of Christ, we have 2 events really that will happen. We have the rapture, as it's sometimes called, when Christ will come for his church. Then we have the second coming, when Christ will come with his church. In the rapture, he comes in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, as a thief in the night. In the second coming, he comes visibly, openly, as the lightning shining from the east to the west. In the rapture, he comes and delivers us before the great tribulation period, before the judgment. In the second coming, he returns with judgment. The second coming is in the future. The second coming is at the end of the tribulation period. The rapture, when the Lord comes for his people, could happen tonight. Are you ready? Can you imagine how wonderful it would be to just close your eyes and open them again and be reunited with loved ones that have gone on before you? How glorious it would be to see Jesus face to face. It could happen. So be ready. You say, well, how do I get ready? Well, know this. Jesus, born in the manger, who lived the perfect life, voluntarily went to a cross and died for the sin of the world. He died for your sin and mine. Then he rose again from the dead 3 days later. And he's with us here right now in this place, knocking at the door of your life, saying, if you will hear my voice and open the door, I will come in. You can ask Christ to come into your life right now and forgive you of your sin and know with certainty you will go to heaven when you die. You can ask for the Lord to forgive you, and you can know you'll be ready for his return. And if you've not done that yet, do it now. In a moment, we're going to pray. And I'll give you an opportunity to say yes to Jesus Christ. Or, if you've fallen away from the Lord, an opportunity to come back to him tonight. Let's all bow our heads for a prayer, if you would, please. Father, I pray now for everyone listening to this message, help them to see the words we have just shared are true. They're the gospel truth. And I pray for any here that do not yet know you, help them to see their need for you and help them to come to you now, we pray. Now while our heads are bowed and our eyes are closed and we're praying, how many of you would say tonight, Greg, I want to be ready for the Lord's return. I want to go to heaven when I die. I want my sin forgiven. I'm ready to say yes to Jesus Christ. If that's your desire, if you want Christ to come into your life and forgive you of your sin, if you want to go to heaven when you die, would you lift your hand up wherever you're sitting? And I'm going to pray for you tonight. Just lift your hand up. God bless you. Down here in the front, there in the back, up in the balcony, in the middle of the balcony, God bless you. In the back of the balcony, God bless you. Just lift your hand up. You want Christ to come into your life tonight. God bless you in the back. God bless you. Anybody else? You want him to come into your life and forgive you of your sin. Let me pray for you. Lift your hand up wherever you are. God bless you. While our heads are still bowed, maybe some of you would say, you know, there was a time when I walked with the Lord, but I've turned away from him, and I want to come back to him tonight. If you're a prodigal son or daughter and you need to return to the Lord, would you raise your hand? Let me pray for you now. God bless you. God bless you. God bless all of you up in the balcony, yes, in the back of the balcony. God bless you all. Father, thank you now for these that have taken this first step of faith. Help them to take the next one now and receive your forgiveness, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.